Good evening, guys. So good to see all of you on here already. Thank you for joining another. What did we call this? I don't think we came up with an official title on this, but the point was Monday night live streams. Is that what we settled with? But most of you who join us from the Mornings with Jesus, so good to see you guys on here. If you're joining our channel for the first time as well, I encourage you, you do not want to miss what we have coming your way tonight. I have one of my dearest friends in the whole world, Rob Enge, who'll be joining us in a few minutes. But let me say hi to some of you on here. My wife's on here. Shelley, good evening. Good to see you. Slade, Bailey, Paula, good to see you. Lynn, Calvary, Miranda, Shelby. Guys, do me a favor as always. Go ahead and not only like the stream, but would you share it to your social platforms? I would super appreciate that tonight. I don't bring people on here just to waste my time, your time, or theirs. I bring the highest caliber people I know on here to pour into your life. And if you want to grow in excellence, if you want to grow in fruitfulness for the Lord, I know few people, if any, of individuals who operate at the level of excellence that my friend is you're going to be hearing from tonight. And so take a moment to share this. Already getting close to 20 live viewers after the intro. Thank you, Lord. So, Rocky, good to see you. Take a moment, guys, to like the stream. Take a moment to share the stream to your social platforms. I would be most grateful. Let's see who's on here as well. Janie, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Well, listen, while people are joining on here, I want to share some awesome news with you. You guys know that we have been believing the Lord now for a few weeks to completely fund the discipleship for the upcoming crusade. As you guys know, only a few days ago, that was fully funded. But today, this went out to our team in Kenya, where the training is underway right now. This is a discipleship manual that I wrote myself alongside my incredible crusade director. And so for those who have given to the ministry recently, especially to the crusade, you are a part. Now, you might see just a booklet in front of you. It's more than that. This is the discipleship manual that is going to disciple what will be, I believe, more than 750,000 new decisions to follow Jesus Christ. And all of those who partner with this ministry, who sow into the ministry, you have been a tremendous part of making that happen. And so that is just a small token of showing you this is going to the team tomorrow morning to start pouring into those new chaplains in Jesus' name. So that's going to be awesome. I'm incredibly excited about it. And only a few days now until I leave to be there on the ground in Vihiga, Kenya, where we are believing for one of the greatest single harvests of souls in the space of those 5 days. As I share with you guys, more than 1.2 million school children will hear the gospel during that time. That's not a small thing, friend. This is something that will be recorded in the history books there of what the Lord is doing, and what a privilege it is to be a very small part of that. So the 17th is when I will be heading out there. Remember, Mornings with Jesus tomorrow morning, 7 Central, 8 Eastern AM. We would love to see you on there. But let me give you just 2 more minutes here for you guys to share that. Climbing towards 20 viewers now. That's awesome. I think on the last one, we got up towards 300 viewers on the one with Pastor Jim that we did. And tonight you are in for an absolute treat. I promise you that. And so 1 more minute for you guys to share that on your social platforms. Please go ahead and do that. Post it to your Instagram story, your Facebook story. And Shelby, if you could help me tonight again in the comments, that would be awesome. I appreciate you guys. But listen, without any further ado, I want to bring a dear friend of mine on here tonight. Rob, you hear me and see me good?
I hear you and see you good. You get better and better looking the more times I see you.
You are a dear friend saying those things that are not true. Good to see you, my friend. So grateful for you. I know that I probably should give this long, sort of elaborate introduction, and I will, because Rob deserves it. So Rob and I have been friends now for looking towards 3-4 years. We've known of each other for much longer than that. I'm going to let Rob sort of give his own background as to his time in ministry. But I first met Rob in 2017 at a Christ for All Nations school, boot. Help me out with it, Rob. School of Fire, School of Ministry. What was it? What were they called?
School of Evangelism.
School of Evangelism. So my mother-in-law was the one who was ministering, and I would see this sharply dressed individual walking around who had a level of noticeability. Like he wasn't just someone walking past you like, he looks different. The way he dressed, the way he conducted himself. And that was noticeable from the time I first met Rob. But then you would sort of want to watch this person in this 3-piece suit, very well put together, and you would see the level of attention to detail that he carried, the way he quickly got things done. And it was very, very noticeable from that moment. This was someone who very much cared about his job. Then I would go to Jesus Image events, and there he would be doing the exact same thing. And I would see him at all these events. And one day I went up and I struck up a conversation with Rob, and somebody who then was the assistant to, and is the assistant for many years to, one of the most well-known evangelists in the United States today, was the most gracious, considerate with his time. All of these things I wasn't expecting became true in that moment. And Rob and I became friends from that day. We started hanging out in our spare time. We would use any UFC event as an excuse to hang out together. And here we are all these years later. And Rob is one of my dearest friends in the whole world. We try not to let more than a month go by without spending time together. We've spent copious amounts of money at First Watch, and I don't regret any of the times that we've done that. And so, Rob, all of that to say, I am so grateful for your friendship, for your time coming on here tonight. And I hope people are aware of the treasure they're about to receive tonight. And I appreciate you, Rob. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're too kind, Jordan. The only problem with an introduction like that is now I actually have to live up to it.
It will not be difficult for you. It will not be difficult, yeah. But go ahead.
No, as you said, man, the honor is truly all mine. And I'm grateful to know you and Kelsey and the family, those beautiful boys that you're raising, and just to have been able to watch your growth as an evangelist, and, to see the ministry making the global impact that it is and leading millions to Christ. I mean, if we're being honest, man, you very well could be the one speaking on the topic of faithfulness leading to fruitfulness. So I just want you to know, man, I'm so proud of you. That you have friends in Meg and I for life. We believe in you. We're championing you and what you're doing, and all for Jesus. And just to see the development of that manual and the kingdom impact that you are having, man, there is nothing greater that we can give our lives to than what
Amen.
matters in eternity. And you guys are doing that. So you're more than just a friend, you're a brother.
Wow. That means the world. It really does. And so I want you guys tonight, as always, this chat is completely interactive. I'm not bringing these individuals on here to stand at a distance, preach to you, and then leave. Like I want them to be able to pour into your life. I want my friendship with them to benefit you. And so you are absolutely free to interact in the chat. Interact as you would if I was regularly preaching. Encourage, post things there, but also questions that you have. Like, it's not very often that you'll get to sit down with someone of this caliber. That's just the way it is. So be selfish. And I say that in the most Christian way possible. Fire your comments in there, your questions in the comments. And I promise you tonight, we will get to it at some point. Again, if you haven't yet liked the stream, go ahead and do that. But Rob and I are basically here are going to just chat for a few moments. And I want to sort of question him. And in so doing so, I want you to learn from the questions that sort of I'm asking Rob here tonight. And so, Rob, firstly, go ahead and just briefly for maybe 2-3 minutes here, outline your journey as it specifically pertains to even secular careers, but also your time in ministry. You know, you were saved, obviously, at a younger age, but go ahead and take us through that journey for the next few minutes here for those who maybe are not aware of who you are tonight.
Yeah, man, I'd be happy to. So currently I live in Orlando, Florida, married to my beautiful wife, Meg. We have 3 amazing children, Jacoby, Sophia, and Maxwell. I am working with a ministry called Christ for All Nations, led by evangelist Daniel Kalenda. And it wasn't always that way, man. If I'm being honest, I grew up in upstate New York, near Syracuse. And I for many years, felt like a David in the sheepfold. As Jared said, I got radically saved when I was 9 years old. And from the time I was 9, the word of the Lord from the pastor of that church is, you're going to be an evangelist. You're going to be an evangelist. And, at that time, I didn't know what an evangelist was, couldn't even spell it. I was just going to church faithfully. But the reality is, man, is I was a drug baby. My mom drugged me to church. Every single day, those church doors were open. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday morning, Wednesday night, prayer meetings. And so at an early age, man, I really developed a love for the Lord and wanted to pursue whatever this thing was called evangelism. But, as most teenagers do, I just went down a different path. I was still going in church, but as you can be in church and
Sure.
not in a relationship with God, right? I mean, going to church doesn't make you a Christian no more than going to McDonald's makes you a cheeseburger. And so it was at 19, man, where I had just this radical dream. In the dream, these 2 boys were playing baseball. One got hit by a ball. I went over to see if he was okay, reached out to grab his hand. And as he grabbed my hand, the nails became black and pointy. And as I looked up the arm, it was just red, 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 red. And as I looked into the face, it was the face of Satan. And he said, me and you are going to be really good friends, and we're going to go places together. And in that moment, man, I just said, I'm no child of you. I'm a child of the Most High God, and we're not going anywhere together. And it was just met by like all these just dreams of like just Satan, him levitating over my bed. And I just had this other dream where he held out a scroll and he told me that there were too many things against me to serve the Lord. And the one thing on the list was family. The second thing was Germany. And then the rest was like real blurry. And I have a German background. So like, I'm just on this journey. But like in that moment, I knew like, this isn't a game. There's 2 kingdoms. There's the kingdom of God. There's a kingdom of Satan. You're serving one or the other. And by God's grace, man, this missionary evangelist by the name of Joseph Bimba came to do some revival services at our church. And man, I was so desperate. I was so hungry. I answered one of those altar calls. I went up there and I just said, Lord, here I am. Have me. Have it all. I'm done. I'm done running. I yield. I surrender. And in that moment, next thing you know, I'm just laying on the ground, weeping like a baby uncontrollably. Nobody touched me. And this evangelist stood over me and he said, young man, I just want to let you know that your Father in heaven loves you. And in that moment, I just felt this warm embrace and the love of the Father that I've never experienced in my life. And so that evangelist and I, man, we stayed in touch. We grew real close. He became like a spiritual mentor to me. And actually released this prophetic word over me after that encounter. Because after that encounter, I went home like God himself was with me. I took all the worldly stuff that I had, movies, magazines, DVDs, music. I piled it all up and threw it in the trash. And when I told him this, he's like, you need to share this testimony to the youth. And so I went up in front of the church. I shared that testimony. And afterwards, he's like, church, you don't understand. I see millions of people coming to
Wow.
salvation through this young man. This young man's
Wow.
feet is going to touch foreign soil. Now, mind you, at the time, I'm 19. I come from a church of about 50 to 60 people. I don't come from some revival movement. My family doesn't, we don't have this rich heritage of ministers or pastors in our family. I've never been to Bible school. So like, I'm listening to this guy tell me that I'm going to lead millions of people. My feet will touch foreign soil. And I'd never even been out of the state of New York. And I'm thinking like, this guy is crazy. And then, so again, a few years later, him and I are in relationship, and I go with him to Africa, and it was there where I realized, like, this is it. This is what I know God's called me to do. I was preaching the gospel in power. I was seeing a demonstration of miracle signs and wonders, and then it just clicked. Like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is what an evangelist does. I am that thing, and I'm going to give my life to this. And so, shortly after that, I got an invitation to go speak at this church in Berwick, Pennsylvania. Through one of their elders. Never had any conversations with the pastor. And if I'm being honest, the word that the Lord gave me to speak at this church, it wasn't one that was going to tickle anybody's ears. I didn't think that I was ever going to get another invitation back. I released the word as the Lord gave it to me. And at that point in my ministry, I saw God move in just incredible ways. And then afterwards, I had this young man just beeline it for the pulpit, as I'm sure you've had this happen, Jordan. And he just says, I just want to let you know that no minister, no guest evangelist would come into church like this and deliver the word that you just delivered. And I'm just thinking like, oh God, what did I do? What did I say? I'm looking at my wife like, oh gosh, here we go. We're never getting invited back. And he said, I'm the pastor of this church. And the word spoke, the Lord spoke that same word to me several months ago. And I've been afraid to release the word in fear that my congregational members would take offense and they would leave. And he said, you've heard from the Lord. And then in that moment, he said, have you ever heard of evangelist Reinhard Bonnke and Daniel Kolenda? And because of my time with this missionary evangelist from Liberia, who was significantly impacted by the ministry, I said, yeah, I'm familiar with the ministry. He said, well, Daniel Kolenda is my cousin. And in that moment, like just something resonated in my spirit. So a couple months go by, I'm on Facebook and I'm scrolling and I see Daniel Kolenda has a post. And before this time, I'd never had any contact with Daniel, the ministry. And I see a post that says, I'm looking for a new personal assistant. If you're interested, message me your resume. And if I'm being honest with you, Jordan, I thought it was a burner account. I'm like, there is no way that the successor to evangelist Reinhard Bonnke is on Facebook just putting up some random casual post about needing an assistant. And I'm like, but it wouldn't let me rest. I couldn't rest. I'm like, how do I find out if this is legit? And so I'm like, let me ask his cousin. Text his cousin. Cousin calls me. I just talked to Daniel. He said for you to apply. This was in February of 2014. I interview with Evangelist Kolenda in March. My first day on the job as his executive assistant is April 7th.
Wow.
So in the matter of months, our world got radically flipped upside down. And it was like the word of the Lord that was spoken over me when I was 19 years old. It came to fruition. And I've served in the ministry for the past decade, traveled the world with him, have seen the millions of salvations, have seen every notable miracle that you can imagine. And my brother, we're just getting started.
Now, how old were you, Rob, when you took the position? Do you remember?
I was 31.
You were 31. So from that initial step of taking the faith, the courage to apply for the job, you get the position. How soon, Rob, did it sort of register in your spirit? In fact, maybe even before that, because you've shared with me personally before, you've always been someone who strived to do things with excellence. Yeah. It's in your DNA. In fact, we talked before this live stream began, just privately. We're wired that we don't do things excellent for somebody else. It bothers me if I didn't do it excellent. Same. I'm going to bed at night thinking, wow, Jordan, that was not good. You could have done way better. Had it always been that way for you, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, first, before we get into the topic of excellence, man, I just want to really make sure that we just level this playing field on that word, right? Because I think you and I can agree we probably share that same standard of excellence, but that may not be it for everybody. And I know even growing up, like I heard the word excellence and I'm just like, what is that? But just for those viewers and those that are listening, it can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But if we took a poll, I'm sure there'd be a vast majority saying something different. But just for you and I right now, for those that are listening, it's just simply this. from excellence is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. That's it. And
That's really good.
one of the most questions I get asked is like, well, can anyone be excellent? And my response is yes. Of
Give that
course
give
you
that
can.
give that definition one more time, Rob, for those listening in the chat.
Yeah. So excellence is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. Doing a
That's
common thing in an uncommon way.
Shelby, put that in the chat for me, Shelby, if you can. Put that in the chat because I want people to be able to see that and actually take that down as well. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it was funny because admittedly, I try to focus on my health and wellness in my older years, and but we would frequently occasion the American Embassy, McDonald's, and one of my guilty pleasures is chicken McNuggets. And I was going through the drive-through one day, and I ordered the chicken nuggets, and I received the chicken nuggets, and brother, I was blown away. And I actually I'm not going to eat them, and I didn't purchase them. Okay. But I just wanted to show your viewers what I experienced when I opened up my chicken nuggets on that day. Okay. Are you ready?
That's how they came to you.
Jordan, that is how the chicken nuggets came to me.
Now,
Anybody that has
yeah,
been
is
to McDonald's
anybody
knows,
else?
normally it's just, throw it in there, like that's how you get it. But those chicken nuggets were like in perfect. I'm not joking. I wanted to stop the car. I wanted to get out and meet that person and shake that hand and just encourage them of like where God was going to take them and what their path was, because I could not believe that that they did something like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, anybody can be excellent. A McDonald's worker can be excellent. But from the very beginning, I felt like both of my parents had a really incredible work ethic, right? But one of my moms, my mom, bless her soul, man, she worked 8 to faint, helping the family. And, she took up this second job cleaning to supplement her income. And so I would go with her to clean, and she would clean offices. And so I would just remember my mom telling me you need to get on your hands and knees, and you need to get under the desk. You need to pull the trash out, because sometimes trash falls behind the bins, and you got to make sure all the trash is in there. And sometimes there'll be a staple in the carpet, or there'll be a paper clip in the carpet that gets stuck. And if you just go over it and you don't pick it up, it'll look like you didn't clean that thing, right? So I felt like that, it started to get instilled. And then I had a little league baseball coach. It was amazing. Man, we were just this powerhouse unit baseball team, won back-to-back championships. And, he would always tell us as 10 and 11-year-old boys, excuses are for losers. We're winners. And every practice, he would pound this into our head. Any kid that would whine and complain about the weather, or that they were thirsty, or that they wanted a break, or that they didn't have the discipline, or they didn't have the power, or they didn't have the skill set, he beat this thing into our head. Excuses are for losers. And I believe that instilled this winning mindset within me. And I was sharing with you prior to this call, Jordan, bro, there's just something in me that desires to be great.
Mm.
I don't want to be good. I don't want to be ordinary. Good is the enemy of greatness. I detest mediocrity. Funny story. I'm in college, right? And a friend of mine at the time was like, bro, I'm running for student government president. I want you to be my vice president. And I'm like, I don't know anything about student government. That was really never my style. But I was like, wow, that's really cool, that they would ask me to be the vice president. I'm like, well, let me think about it. I went home and I thought about it. You know what I said to myself, Jordan? If I'm going to do it, I'm going to be the president. I'm not going to be somebody's VP. President. Yeah. So, bro, as God is my witness, Jordan, I ran for president and I won.
You're poor
so
friend.
I win the president, right? And then, of course, the student paper wants to do all these interviews with you and stuff. And they're like, what do you want to do, for a career? I literally have the paper to this day. And in the paper, I said, I want to be a CEO and I want to travel the world.
Wow.
Right. So it was there was just something in me that just desired just the highest level of excellence and standards for my personal life. And then I get accepted as the executive assistant to one of the greatest evangelists on the planet, who was succeeded by one of the greatest evangelists in the history of the world, evangelist Reinhard Bonnke. And so, again, coming from just a small town, it was like these two worlds colliding. And I realized in that moment, like I had to level up, right? Like I had a choice to make. I could remain comfortable. I could remain stagnant. I could remain like in my my standard of thinking of this is my best.
Right.
But what if your best isn't good enough? Right? What do you do then? And a ministry that has 14 offices in 12 countries on 6 continents and is making global impact, right? And I have to weather some storms. I'm not going to be honest with you, but like this is a ministry that operates at an excellence that's comparable to some of the best 500, Fortune 500 companies, on the planet. And so I feel like it was like this progressive development, but my time at CFAN, man, has just solidified it.
I've been telling our community, Rob, recently. I preached a sermon on the lives. We do lives every Tuesday morning, every Thursday, and now we do the Mondays as well. And we started that because I gave them the title of a book I saw recently called "Can't You Do Just a Little More?" The moment you think,
I want that book.
yeah, it's by an evangelist called Dag Heward-Mills. They're in Africa.
Yeah, very familiar with that.
Yeah. And so he wrote the book, "Can't You Do Just a Little More?" And the mindset that this is the best I can do, I don't believe that's a biblical mindset. I really don't. And so let me present this to you, Rob. Why does excellence matter? And I want you to sort of take this from a almost a psychological standpoint and then a biblical standpoint, right? This may seem harsh, but I make no apologies for this whatsoever. Christians have a horrible stigma of doing a trash job when we do things. So we host an event. We've got cheap paper plates. We've got the carpet wasn't swept. The seats aren't properly aligned. This has got 2 feet between the seats. This has got 1 foot. The microphone doesn't work for the first minute when the pastor takes it. There's water damage on the ceiling. We have this horrible reputation as Christians of low budget, well, we're being good stewards of the Lord's money. No, like Solomon was a great steward of the Lord's money, and he coated things in gold. This has to be ivory. If I'm going to get wood craftsmen, they're going to be the best wood craftsmen walking the face of. Solomon did things with excellence, Rob. David did things with excellence. You better believe Jesus made his disciples do things with excellence. Abraham, excellence. It's all through the Bible.
Yeah.
So why does excellence matter, Rob? Why can't we just go, well, just get it done? Why does excellence matter? Get to the heart of this thing.
Yeah, man. Let me tell you, man. We could literally do dozens and dozens of lives, right? But like on a practical sense, man, like why don't we do things in excellence? Because it's not easy.
Right.
Because it requires effort.
Good.
Because it's hard.
So good.
Because you can't take shortcuts. But it requires intentionality. It requires consistency. It requires forethought, right? So excellence matters, not like, especially as a person of faith, because it reflects the character of God.
Amen.
It fulfills his calling. It demonstrates stewardship. It demonstrates integrity, right? Excellence is a reflection of God's character. God himself is the ultimate standard of excellence. Everything he creates and does, it's perfect. It's intentional. It's beautiful. And as his image bearers, right, we read this in Genesis, we are called to reflect his nature in all that we do. In Psalm, Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. In Daniel, now Daniel so distinguished himself because an excellent spirit was in him. Yeah. You become what you pursue, Jordan.
Yeah.
And when you pursue excellence, we mirror God's greatness and we draw others to him through the quality and the integrity of our work, right? Why does it matter? Because excellence honors God. Right. Our work and our efforts and our acts of worship are done unto the Lord, right? And one of the scriptures that like just nails this home for me always, it's in Colossians 3:23 through 24. Whatever you do.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Church, work, marriage, family, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive your inheritance. Too often we want to hear the pastor. We want to hear the boss. We want to hear our wife. We want to hear everybody else give us that pat on the back. Like, I'm telling you, like, that's like, if you are in pursuit of excellence, more often than not, you are not going to get that.
Right.
Being a person of excellence is it's background type work. It's not celebrated. It's not highlighted, right? Like, why does it matter? Because when we approach life with excellence, we show reverence for God, demonstrating that his work through us deserves our very best. Why does it matter? Because it draws other people to the kingdom. Excellence is in our character. It's in our work. It's in our relationships. Our decision to pursue excellence becomes a testimony to others. I can assure you, Jordan, if I was just an average assistant doing average type work, I would not be the one that you would have chose to be on this live tonight.
True.
Because excellence communicates that we serve a God of order. We serve a God of creativity. We serve a God of power, right? What does Matthew tell us? Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Oh, well, Rob, but I don't come from some big pedigree. I don't come from wealth. I don't come from influence. Hello, welcome to the club. Jordan, I'm sure can say, welcome to the club.
Right.
Like, the excellence, it's not complicated. It is costly. Why does it matter? Because people often judge God by how his followers live.
So give that one more time.
Matters.
Excellence. It's
not complicated. It's costly.
Wow.
It's not complicated. And too often times we think, well, that means I got to spend over budget. That means I got to buy the thing. No. You missed it. That's not what that means. My wife is one of the most gangster, like, interior decorators, event planners, and like, she will go to Ross, she will go to Didi, she will go to Walmart, she will go to, and Jordan, you're as my witness, like, you can do, like, it does not look cheap.
We love Meg.
Right? But why? Because there was care and concern and effort on the outcomes, right? And we care what people think about. Bro, we are we are his hands and feet.
Yeah.
If we are truly that, how can we put on an event, or how can we act a certain way and dress a certain way without caring? Like, excellence is how we carry ourselves. People would always laugh at me, Rob, why do you wear a 3-piece suit to Africa? Right? Because I am an extension of the ministry of Christ for all nations. I am an extension of the CEO and president. But beyond that, I am an extension of God. I care.
Reminds me of the scripture, we are his ambassadors. We represent him.
Yeah. And so when you think of a perspective that, like, people judge God by his followers and how we live and, like, how we carry ourselves and how we lead and how we serve, and, like, God can create open doors to share the gospel. Like, a lot of the opportunities I get now have stemmed from that. Like, I've become like the excellence guru, and trust me, I by no means perfect, and I got a lot of area growing to do, but I'm relentless, Jordan. Same with us, man. We have these conversations, and, like, we are men of God that are going to obey the call of God no matter what the cost. We are going to pay our price, and we are going to get everything that the Morris and the Enge family has for us. Are we, or are we not?
100%. And all of First Watch knows about it once we leave too.
Yeah. Right. And so why does it matter? Because excellence demonstrates stewardship. Everything that we have, our time, our talents, our treasures, opportunities, they all come from God.
Yeah.
And he calls us to steward them well.
Yeah.
So those examples that you gave, those are individuals that aren't stewarding what God gave them well. I love Matthew 25. I'm going to refer to it a few times. Matthew 25, we got this parable of the talents, right? The servant who invested and multiplied the resources was commended, while the other ones buried their talent. And what were they? They were rebuked. Excellence is a sign of gratitude. It's a sign of obedience, showing that we value and we maximize what God has entrusted us with. Why does it matter? Because it inspires growth and faithfulness, right? That's one of the main topics of this live is faithfulness produces fruitfulness. But excellence inspires that. God's purpose for us is not to remain stagnant. It's not to be complacent, but to grow and to bear fruit for his kingdom, not our kingdom. John 15, this is to my Father's glory, that you may bear much fruit. This isn't for Rob Enge's glory or Jordan Morris's glory or all for Jesus' glory. No, this is for our Father's glory.
Amen.
That we may bear much fruit, showing ourselves to be his disciples, right? Excellence pushes us beyond mediocrity. It helps us develop the gifts that God has given us and inspires others to pursue, their God-given potential. Bro, like you brought me on to inspire people because of this standard and this measure of excellence in which I live, right? And here's one that I know you're going to shout amen to. Excellence combats a poverty and mediocre mindset. A poverty mindset, a poverty attitude of complacency. You know what that does? That dishonors God.
Yeah.
Thinking that you're taking shortcuts or saving some years, saving them, it literally dishonors God and it limits kingdom impact. It actually has an adverse effect. Proverbs 22 says, do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand before you. Literally said this to me the other day. Yeah. Proverbs 22, you said, bro, your gifts are yours, going to bring you before kings, and you will not stand before obscure men. I am in rooms that I will admittedly tell you that I don't belong in. I have relational connections and friendships that I as a man of my caliber and my pedigree, my upbringing, I didn't have any sort of ministry job before I served as the executive assistant to evangelist. I just served. I gave my life for a season. I wasn't on salary. I wasn't on payroll. Like I have given sacrificially, and I've just been a byproduct of everything that I'm sharing on this call right now. It matters because God has called us as his people to lead and to set the standard. That's why it matters, not to settle for less. Excellence breaks this cycle of small-minded thinking and limited belief systems, and it glorifies the abundance of God's provision.
Amen.
Like excellence matters because it prepares us for eternal impact.
Yeah.
Our earthly work is what? It's preparation for eternity. Like how we handle our responsibilities now reflects our readiness for greater assignments in God's kingdom, right? Whoever, what does it say in Luke? Whoever can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. Yeah. Excellence is about faithfulness, not perfection. And I'm going to touch on this now because that's another one I get. Well, Rob, everything you're talking about, that's perfection. That's striving. That's performance. No. When we are in a pursuit of excellence, we align our lives with God's eternal purposes, right? So good. So why does it matter? Because it reflects God's character. For those of you that are taking notes, you can note it reflects God's character. That's why it matters. It honors him as an act of worship. That's why excellence matters. It draws others to the foot of the cross. It opens up doors. It gives us opportunities. A lot of the opportunities I get is for this reason, because I've chosen to live a life of excellence. It's a simple choice. Excellence matters because it demonstrates faithful stewardship in what God has given you. And it also leads to abundance. It's a promise. If you're faithful with a little, he'll give you more. Right? Sure. Don't we all want to live in abundance? Like that's what some of the thing that blows me away is like they're actually robbing themselves of the blessing. Excellence matters because it inspires growth and impact. And it combats mediocrity and it glorifies God's abundance, right? It prepares us for his eternal purposes. If you fail to prepare to fail. If you fail to prepare to fail. And so as people of faith pursuing excellence, it's not about God's love or God's approval. Like we have that. Our desire and pursuit of excellence, it's a response to his greatness. Yeah. It's a response to his grace. It's a response to his calling on our lives.
So good. What is your response, Rob, to the person who says, well, clearly you and Jordan are very type A personality. I don't have that mindset. That's not my mindset. Do you reject the idea that excellence is to do with personality types?
100%. What we're talking is Bible.
Yeah.
Again, we take our thoughts captives. This isn't about a personality trait.
Hmm.
Are you a man or woman of God, or aren't you? Are you in desire to be and to demonstrate the characteristics and to embody the fruits of the Spirit and to walk in the fullness of who God created you to be? If the answer to any of those is yes, then excellence. Personally, I don't feel as a suggestion. I feel like it's a mandate.
Yeah.
It's
That's
not a
so good.
personality type. And for again, respectfully, I went up and I told you what my high school coach would be. My response to that, and I'm from New York and I'm pretty direct. I'm an evangelist, but like again, excuses are the nails used to build a house of failure.
Mm, very
To
good.
say that excuses are the nails used to build a house of failure. To try to say it's a personality type, that's an excuse. I detest excuses.
Hmm.
I don't embrace excuses. I embrace solutions.
Amen.
Okay, what are you going to do? Excellence is about taking action.
Yeah.
So what does personality have to do about taking action? I love a quote from evangelist Reinhard Bonnke, who I know you love and respect and admire and has been a father in the faith to you. He would always say, those who continually pray the will of God will be overrun by those who actually
Those
do
who
it.
do it.
You
Amen.
know? And it's like, you just got to do it. Put your Nikes on and do it. That's what action is. Excellence is. It's taking action. And again, it's difficult. It's hard work. There are no shortcuts. Rome wasn't built in a day. There's no such thing as an overnight success. Like, you have to embrace the suck. You have to love the grind. And again, understanding like what we read in the Colossians, whatever we do,
Mm,
it's not for the glory of Rob Enge. It's
mhm.
unto the glory of the Lord. That would be my response to that.
I think something so good, and this is all amazing. I mean, I'm not sure if you can see the chat, Rob, but people have been deeply touched by this already. Let me pull this one up here. This is so good. Um, One of the things I think you so well articulated there was what we do for the Lord is a direct reflection of the God we claim to serve. So
100%.
when you show up at an event being put on by Christians and it's not organized, no, they said they're going to start at 7, it's 7:12. People are just walking around. No one seems in charge of this thing. Can you imagine an unsafe person walking in thinking, oh, so this is for the God you guys claim you serve? Like, I've walked into church for the first time. No one greeted me. No one said hi to me. The chairs are all off center. Like, your worship team is kicking back and relaxing when you said on the flyer said 7:00. That screamed loudly. And I sometimes think, Rob, that the church doesn't think it matters. Like, that matters so much. And I guess this leads to the next question here. We want to be fruitful for the Lord, but
Yeah.
the phrase goes, don't spread yourself too thin. How do you learn to balance, Rob? And I know what my answer to this is already, but I think I know what yours is. How do you balance a incredible level of fruitfulness, which we all want?
Yeah,
That's
sure.
why we went from 2 live streams a week to 4 live streams. You can do a little
Yeah,
more in addition to my schedule on the road, in addition to the crusades. Like, you
yeah,
can do a little more. Just don't
sure.
make excuses. Get up and get doing it.
Yeah,
How do you balance, Rob, incredible fruitfulness with excellence? And does there have to be a compromise either way?
yeah. I want to address what you were saying though about like when you walk into the church and you're not greeted and you're not, this is to the leaders that are on the call. If there's
Yeah,
pastors and if there's church leaderships, what we do in moderation, our followers will do in excessively. Right. So that's why it's up to us as leaders. Again, you teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are.
Shelby, put that in the comments if you can. Can you give that one more time, Rob?
Yeah, what we as leaders do in moderation, our followers will do excessively. And you teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. We have to
So
have
good.
standards, right? And we have to live to those things. I'm of the type, man, when it comes to like my children, when it comes to my marriage, when it comes to my family, when it comes to my friendship, Jordan, like
Mhm.
I'm not going to ask you as my friend to do something I'm not willing to do myself. I'm not going to do something in my home I'm not going to talk a certain way, act a certain way. And like I say all the time, like I want to be my kid's hero. I
Yeah.
want to be my wife's hero. I don't want them looking at some basketball player, baseball player, like striving for us. And like, I want them to look at me and I want to say, that was the characteristic I saw in my dad. That was the characteristics I saw in my father. That was the characteristic. So it comes into, this question like balance. If I'm going to be honest with you, I personally don't care for the word balance, especially being in full-time ministry, because balance can be very elusive. It can be very difficult to achieve. I prefer the word rhythm.
Very
A
good.
rhythm is just a pattern or a behavior, right? Ministry and family. Like you can't, like, you're building a ministry right now, Jordan. How many weeks out of the year do you travel?
39, 40.
39, 40 out of 52. Like most would say, like, that's not balance, right? But when he gives you the gift, he gives you the grace, right?
Yeah.
But work and family don't weigh the same. Like when you're building something, when you're trying to establish something, like that's going to require more of your time. Seasons of life matter. And I think oftentimes, like, people don't realize that. Like, we have to focus on finding the right rhythms for the season of life that you're in,
Very
right?
good.
And so creating a rhythm of excellence and fruitfulness, it involves establishing intentional habits. Like, you have to establish the right mindsets. You have to have the right, like, practices that are going to prioritize growth. They're going to prioritize discipline. They're going to prioritize alignment with your purpose. I can't tell you what that is. No more than Jordan can tell you what that is. We're evangelists. We're not prophets. But like, you are going to have to be the one that goes before the Lord. Okay, what are you asking me to do? Too often I see in kingdom and everywhere else, we have like this thing of comparison. We're like, I'm striving to be what you're doing. I want what you want. I want to be where you're at. No. Comparison is the thief of joy. And so often I see people like get into a ministry school, or they'll get into an evangelism thing, or like they'll get into a particular job, and like they see somebody else and like they don't have the grace for it. They don't have the gift for it, but like they want it. Like,
Right.
that's silly. Like, you have to establish for your life a clear vision and purpose.
So good.
You have to define what that purpose is. Know what you're working toward. Too many people are just wandering aimlessly and let life taking it, and then instead of them taking life. Right? Like, what
So
are you
good.
working toward and why? Get before God and ask him why. We're at the beginning of a new year. I saw this crazy statistic. Actually, I'm going to pull it up because I want to share it with you. It's
Sure.
actually wild, so forgive me. But I saw this statistic because, everybody likes to start, New Year's resolutions, right? I'm going to get back in the gym. I'm going to start dieting. I'm going to start exercising. We have this laundry, like we go out, we buy all the protein, we buy all the food. We're going to meal prep. We get the gym membership. We go into all this stuff. This is a real life statistic. The second Friday in January, January 10th, January 10th, Jordan. This is called Quitter's Day, because research shows that many people abandon their resolutions by then. Instead of making it hard on yourself for having those goals. Yeah. So it goes on to like tell you like what to do, smart, all these other things. January 10th, 10 days into the new year, majority of people have already abandoned their goals. Why?
Wow.
Like, fruitfulness flows from clarity of purpose. What does the Bible say in Proverbs? Where there's no vision, people perish. Right? You have to set goals that reflect excellence. Like, you have to break down that larger vision into clear, measurable goals that reflect quality and impact. Right? Like, we have to be consistent in our disciplines. Like, these are all very practical things. Like, let's not be so spiritually minded that we're no earthly good and just sit in our seats and just think like, oh Lord, if you don't put that desire in me, like, there must not be, like, BS. I don't ascribe to that. Because again, like the Bible says in 1 Corinthians, I discipline my body.
Right.
I keep it under control. Right? Maybe there's people that hear that on this call right now that are going through a fast. You understand this more than anybody. Your body's screaming for some sugar right now. Your body's screaming for some food right now, right? But small steps lead to big results. It amazes me why people don't understand this, that consistency and doing small, necessary tasks with quality are going to build momentum. Like, it's hard because you don't got no momentum. It's hard because you haven't done nothing. Nothing from nothing is nothing, right? Like, you have to do something. Like, not even God can steer a parked car. Like, give him something to work with. And then when you do, and you're faithful with the little, what do you get? You're going to produce fruit over time. You don't plant a seed and then eat the fruit the next day.
Right.
That's crazy talk, right? I have this quote, and I learned this several years ago in the world when I wasn't even walking with God. And it's literally stuck with me to this day because I believe that this has been my secret sauce. And I believe it will be for a lot of you as well. It's a simple 3-word quote. Master the mundane.
Very good.
Master the mundane. Like, success is achieved one day at a time, one action at a time, right? So, like, swap out success with excellence. Excellence is achieved one day at a time, one action at a time, right? So what is mundane? Mundane is literally lacking interest or excitement. That's what mundane means. And, like, look, it's dull. I work in a ministry where a lot of my responsibility is administrative tasks, right? Like, so you're telling me, like, Rob, the recipe is like mastering like the unexciting things? Yes. Like, Jordan, did you like find pure joy in typing out and dedicating as much time as you did to your discipleship manual?
I did not.
No, right? But that is a tool now that it's from heart to paper that will literally, it will go beyond you. It will live beyond you. Your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are going to be able to say, my dad, my great-grandfather sowed a seed on the earth that will literally go to all eternity, right? I get hundreds and hundreds of emails. Like, that's not exciting, right? A lot of things that I manage, like, they're not exciting. But, like, when you decide that you're going to prioritize, like, there's a thing that I do. It's called my daily 8. I have 8 daily disciplines that I look at every single day, right? One of them is, like, get up at a certain time. Another one is read my paper, not my phone, not listening, not windshield, that's got a time and a place. But, like, I have where I want to read my paper Bible. I have a designated time where I pray in the Spirit. I want to take my vitamins. I want to work out for a designated amount of time. I want to pray with my wife face to face out loud. I want to pray with my children out loud. These are not things that I'm good at. That's why I have them as my daily disciplines, right? But these are things that are in my face every single day that I look at. My daily 8. Right. And this makes me prioritize my growth so that I'm not just wandering aimlessly and saying, like, oh, man, did you pray today? I haven't prayed in 6 months. Like, nobody sets out saying that, like, oh, I don't want to pray the next 6 months. I don't want to read my Bible the next 6 months. I don't want to, like, you don't wake up one day and then your wife says she wants to leave you.
Right.
Right. You don't wake up one day and then you go into work and your boss says, yeah, like your yearly review, it's poor. You're not showing up in certain areas. Right. You have to mind in the beginning what matters in the end. And that's why I'm saying you can have that great vision, but we got to narrow it down. We got to make it practical so that you can adopt that growth of mindset and you can seek constantly to improve and to learn. Like, excellence is about striving for improvement, not perfection, right? Proverbs says, let the wise hear and increase in learning. And then the one who understands obtains guidance. A lot of you are lost. You don't know where to go. You don't know what to do. So we fill our lives with podcasts and books. And, like, how many books do you have that you don't read? How many things do you have like subscriptions that you don't watch? Right? We acquire, but we just gotta, like, no. We got to get back to the foundational things. I'm a foundational guy. I'm not that smart. I'm not that educated. Like, I can't read you the Bible chapter and verse, but, like, I just, like, have these these core fundamental things in my life that I'm unwilling to compromise on. Right. Yeah. I'm open to consider criticism. Right. I'm open to accountability. Jordan, you're one of those men in my life. I tell you all the time, bro, like, if you see something in me, say it. If I'm doing something, say it. if I'm falling short in it, like I live in a glass house. Like what you see is what you get, good, bad, or ugly. Like I am who I am, but I am constantly working on being the best version of me. And I refuse to settle for anything else. Obviously, first and foremost, unto the Lord. But
Yeah.
just again, because I want optimum impact. Guys, we have one life to live.
Come on.
You said it, Jordan. I want to go to bed and have emptied the tank. So many of us on this call are on here, and you still have more to give. There's books that need to be written. There's businesses that need to be started. There's college degrees that need to be obtained. There's ministries that need to be started. There are nations that are waiting for you. There are souls that are lying in the balance, but you are too busy procrastinating and being lazy, and you've settled, you're complacent. But no, we got to focus our standards higher, not on perfection, because excellence is about quality, not perfection, right? Anything worth doing is worth doing right. I tell my kids this all the time. If you're going to do it right. Set high standards for yourself, but avoid that trap of perfectionism, because that leads to, paralysis, like fear of even taking one step. No, like that's not what God has called us to be. Again, whatever you do, work at it heartily for the Lord and not men, right? So when you balance, you got to balance excellent with grace. Accept the mistakes, right? Winners or losers who just kept going. Right? Failures are a part of the process. Like you either win or learn. You don't win or lose. Right? Learning is amazing, right? That helps us to improve. That helps us to grow. Right? We can talk about healthy relationships and support systems and, aligning with the principles of God and practicing patience and persistence and, evaluating and reflecting, regularly, like all these like little things, right? Celebrate those wins.
Yeah.
Man, that's one of the things that we do as a family in our marriage. Like we just celebrate the progress. Progress is progress, right? Again, don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare your beginning to mine and Jordan's middle. That's crazy. Like you're not me. Like you're not Jordan. Like God designed you and gave you and equipped you everything you need to be the best version of you, right?
Let me encourage you, Rob. Again,
please.
people are commenting while you're saying this. Someone just commented, my husband and I had a conversation about being perfect. This is incredibly encouraging. Be excellent, not perfect. So this is ministering to people right as you're even ministering this. I want to re-quote something you said a few moments ago, because I don't think you even know this. I have this quote from Reinhard above my laptop. So whenever I take a break from my laptop, I can't help but see it. Mind in the beginning what will matter in the end.
No.
And I think, right above my laptop and my computer's here, right above it, it says Reinhard Bonnke, mind in the beginning, what will matter in the end. And I think all of what you just said there is encapsulated by that. It's refusing to move away from the basic fundamentals. Like what you just said, you claimed, which is not true, that you're not a highly intelligent or gifted person, which is incredibly untrue. But the point stands. You are notorious for being a pit bull with this is what needs to happen, and there is no going to bed tonight without it happening. And that is a decision, right? That doesn't, no one prayed that into you. You didn't get in a prayer line one day and this was prayed into you. This is a daily decision. And you and I talk about this stuff all the time. I'm not going to go to bed feeling like a loser. I won't do it. I will get back up at 11 o'clock and retype this whole thing if that's what it takes.
100%.
I'm not going to give some trash product to 1.2. Now, not all of them are going to make decisions, but that's the cap. And let's say even 600,000. I'm not giving a piece of trash to 600,000 brand new baby Christians because I couldn't be bothered putting the time in. If you're going to do it excellence. But do you agree, Rob? That is a mindset and a decision you have to make yourself.
100%. It's a choice. You either want it or you don't.
So sorry, Rob.
Oh, go ahead.
So if somebody today says, Rob, I'll put my hands up. I don't have that mindset. Where do I start? Help me, Rob. What do you tell that person? Where do I start?
Yeah, I would just take an examination of where you're currently at, what you have, where you want to go, and like just be honest with yourself, right? And like I said, that daily 8 for me was a game changer because it forced me to take action. And then when you have friends like you and I, we have, Jared, where we share things with one another, and then there's measures of accountability. Like when you know there's somebody else that's going to hold you to that standard, like that's a game changer, right? So I think first and foremost, you gotta again, everybody in here has got different goals. They got different desires. They got different callings, right? But you have to have an honest conversation with yourself. And again, everything like I just said, what do you want to do and where do you want to go, right? Start doing something in pursuit of that goal,
So
right?
good.
I'm amazed at how many people say that they want to do something, but they refuse to start. Start. Like, we give you permission right now in this very moment to go after everything that God has for you. We're giving you permission to live the life that God has called you to live,
So
based
good.
off of all these other things that I just shared. And Jared, Jordan, if you don't mind, I'd love to talk about the the perfection
Of
part,
course.
right?
Take it
That we
away.
had,
Take it away.
that we had talked about. Yeah. So I often, like I said, get that question a lot. Like, why do we have to, uh, like, what's the difference between perfection and then what's the difference between performance
Mm.
or something like that? So there's distinctions that need to be made. Okay. Excellence focuses on doing your best with what you have, continually growing, right? Glorifying God in your efforts. It's about progress, not purpose. Perfection focuses on an impossible standard of flawlessness tied to fear of failure or the need of approval, right? Excellence is rooted in honoring God, personal growth, and serving others with integrity, right? That Colossians verse, whatever you do, right? But perfection is driven by fear of failure. Perfection is insecurity. Perfection is
Mm.
the desire to control the outcomes, right? And that stems from pride. It stems from fear
Wow.
of disappointing others, right?
Wow.
And then you throw in performance. Like, performance is being driven by comparison, what we talked about. Performance is competition. Performance is the need to prove worth through achievements or recognition. No. Excellence embraces effort. Excellence embraces learning. Excellence embraces grace, right? It's about doing your best and trusting God with the results. Perfection, it struggles with these rigid expectations, self-criticism, self-doubt, fear of man, fear of not measuring up, fear of failure, right? Where performance, right? We prioritize outside appearances over inner growth. We prioritize other things that leads to what? Burnout and superficial success, which leads to absolute misery. Jordan, you and I have seen this, right?
Yeah.
What does excellence lead to? Fulfillment. Excellence leads to growth. Excellence leads to joy. It acknowledges our human limitations, right? For my friend who was talking about perfection, excellence acknowledges that we are limited, but we rely on God's strength. Whereas perfection, it leads to frustration. It leads to exhaustion. It leads to feelings of inadequacy because perfection is unattainable. It says it in the Bible. All of us would fall short of the glory of God, right? And then performance, we look for validation. I need somebody else to tell me that I'm doing what God's called me to do. I need that pat on the back, remember, from our boss or from our superior or from our wife. But that costs you something. And I say all the time, if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. It
Very good.
costs you your authenticity, right? From a spiritual perspective, like, excellence seeks to glorify God by stewarding the talents and opportunities faithfully, knowing that his grace is sufficient, knowing that it aligns with humility and trust, right? What do we say? We talked earlier, Matthew 25. We heard that scripture, well done, good and
Yeah.
faithful. Of all the words he could have used, it wasn't the most anointed. It wasn't the most educated. It wasn't the most articulate. It wasn't who had the biggest ministry or who had the most salvations or who had the biggest platform. No, it was faithfulness, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole topic of this call. Faithfulness leading to fruitfulness. But what does perfection do? Perfection denies the sufficiency of God's grace, implying that our personal effort can achieve what only God can. That's crazy talk, right? His word says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness, right? But in performance, like, that prioritizes people's opinions over God's approval. Again, that's crazy. And then we fall into the trap of what? Human praise. Galatians
Mm.
1:10. Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Right? So how we pursue excellence without falling into perfectionism or performance, this is how we do it. We work with purpose. Everything that we do is on purpose. It's on mission. That's
Yeah.
why I said, like, take a true examination of yourself and practically think, okay, what can I do to work on purpose? What can I do to focus on glorifying God and not pleasing people? How can I embrace grace? How can I accept my limitations and let God's strength work through my weakness? How can I prioritize my growth? What areas can I start to just, too many people dabble in discipline. I'm not a dabbler. Jordan's not a dabbler, right? We have to celebrate our progress, not perfection, and just rest in God's love. And remember that your worth is not based on what you do, but it's who you are. I like to say he's not looking for performers. He's looking for sons and daughters, right? And Ephesians 2, right? For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. This is not from yourselves. It's a gift. It's not by works. So it's not about striving. It's not about performing, right? But when we strive for excellence, we honor God, we grow in our faith, and we avoid those traps of perfectionism and performance.
So good. The mindset, Rob, of you mentioned one little phrase that I loved. You can't have faithfulness. I don't want to misquote you here at all, but let me ask you back as a question.
Sure.
Do you believe that faithfulness is possible without excellence?
That's a great question. In my personal opinion, I think that it probably could, but I feel that the benefits and the blessing and the fruit that you're going to produce is going to taste so much sweeter. It's going to be produced so much healthier. I feel like there will be a difference in a life with and without.
Can I tell you my thought on it?
Say that again. Yeah, please.
Can I tell you my thought on it? I think you can still hear the word, well done, thou good and faithful servant. But that is very different to what your reward will be.
Yes.
The Bible says we'll be rewarded for everything done in the body. So yeah, you can still make it. But as to the reward that you receive when you get there, I think excellence touches this part. Would you agree?
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah. I think excellence is about how my crown looks on the day.
Yeah.
I think excellence
I want
is
my crown, Jordan. I want my crown bigger than your crown. And I know you want yours bigger than mine.
Because ultimately, the crown is the only thing we have to give to Jesus on the day. Yeah, come on. At that point, Jesus doesn't want a sermon. At that point, I can't hold a crusade around the throne. What have I got in that moment? The only thing I have to give back to him, and friend, and Rob, I'm not meaning to take over here at all, but if you just let me
I love this. This is great.
Friend, in that moment, please hear me. To quote the words of my father-in-law, Steve Hill, who preached on that crown, it's not for you. The crown is not for you. The Bible says that the elders cast their crowns before him. The only thing you will have to give him on the day is the crown he gives you. And friend, I believe excellence is to do with how shiny that crown is on that day. I don't want to stand there before Jesus wishing this could have looked a lot better had I not had I not taken shortcuts, had I not done it the easy way, had I not done it the mediocre way. Friend, let me reiterate what Rob said for a few moments here. God hates mediocrity. He hates it. Despises it. What did David say, Rob? I will not give the Lord something that costs me nothing.
Yeah.
David had this mindset. I'm not giving some piece of trash to the Lord. David called the whole country and said, listen, we're going to take an offering and we're going to give it to the Lord. David said, I will empty my private treasury. Who will follow in my example? Rob, what were you saying about what we do as leaders? People will do in excess. Quote that again, if you will.
What we do in that must have been just one off the cuff. But
it was great.
What we do in moderation as leaders, our followers will do in excess.
Okay,
what we as leaders do in moderation, our followers will do in excess.
So let David prove this point here.
Yeah.
David's saying, I'm going to empty my treasury to show you I'm not telling you to do it. I'm getting on board with this. Now you follow suit. Can you imagine, Rob, if David would have said, we're going to take an offering for the Lord here. I'm going to give 1 gold coin. What would the people have done?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Follow suit.
yeah, they would have followed suit. So the idea, David said this in essence, let me model to you what excellence looks like
Mm.
so that you will then copy me. And I believe it sets this beautiful example as leaders as what that looks like in a day-to-day basis. I want to sort of begin to conclude here, Rob, with a story you told me years ago, and I think you already know this story, of the mindset you can get it done if you really care about it. You already know the story
That
I'm going to
million
tell.
dollar question, right? I
You
like the
know what I'm
million
going to
dollar
say.
question. So,
I
yeah,
have
so the
I have
million
used
dollar
this.
question is you get a lot of people with excuses, and you got to let pastors like, yeah, we just can't get anybody in the door. Like, man, it's very difficult to do this thing. It's like it's called the million dollar question. If I gave you $1 million, could you do it? And you would be amazed at the amount of people that will be able to make it happen. So it's not a matter of like, can you do it? It's your desire to want to do it. You can do it. You just don't desire to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
if that
wanted
was
to
the story you're talking about, but
That's the exact one. I actually wanted to dwell on that subject, Rob, for just shoot from your heart for about 3 or 4 minutes on people who have a mindset. It can't be done. I can't do it. I'm not talented enough. Can you just talk just for the next 2, 3 minutes on the mindset? You can do it if you want to do it bad enough. And again, the priority in all of it, the motivation is unto the Lord. Just talk about that for a few moments.
yeah, 100%.
Working
I
hard
mean,
for God.
the mindset of thinking that like that you can't, like, that stems from you know fear. It stems from doubt. It stems from unbelief. And my friend, I'm telling you right now, unbelief is a poison. Like, don't underestimate the transformative power of God working in and through your life. Like,
So
it
good.
tells us in Ephesians, like, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine, according to his power and that work within us. Like, it reminds us of God's capacity to bring faithfulness far greater than our human understanding. When we focus on our own ability rather than God's, right? Like, we can't fear change. You can't fear growth. Like, growth requires pruning. Growth requires sacrifice. Growth
Yeah.
requires stepping into the unknown. I truly believe, Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, I do not believe that you're going to find the will of God for your life in your comfort zone.
Mm-mm.
I just don't believe
Mm-mm.
it. Like, you
Mm-mm.
have to, like, you gotta be the Peter. You gotta step out into the boat. You gotta step out into the unknown. And fear of failure, fear of discomfort, fear of losing control, it's gonna hinder your fruitfulness, right? Like, John tells us, like, every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes,
Yeah,
right?
cuts off.
So so that you can be more fruitful. It's not to hurt you. It's not to harm you. It's not to hinder you. It's so you can be more fruitful. My friends, you may be here and you might be in a pruning season, and pruning can be painful, but I want to encourage you that even though it's painful, it's necessary. It's
Yeah.
necessary for you to have this increased fruitfulness, because the fear of this process, it may lead to you to resist growth, right? Like, there's contentment in complacency. Like, people sometimes like confuse complacency with contentment. Like, no. Like, biblical contentment is trusting in God in every season, right? Complacency is just a lack of ambition to grow or bear more fruit for God's kingdom. But that's not what he's called us to. Right?
Mm.
People, we want to focus on our weakness. We want to focus on our inequities, our inadequacies. We want to focus on past failures, then remembering God's strength. But let me encourage you with this: his grace is
Yeah.
sufficient. His
Yeah.
power is made perfect in your weakness. Like, fruitfulness is not about your human capability, but about God's grace working in and through you as willing vessels. And again, without vision for what God can do for you, like, you'll settle. Like, go after God in the beginning of this new year, at the beginning of 2025, and figure out, like, God, what do you have for me? What do you desire for me? Because where there's no vision, you'll perish. Like, faith and vision are essential into stepping into fruitfulness, into stepping into excellence. And I believe that without them, like, you'll feel stuck and you'll feel limited.
I I hope you're grasping tonight what's been shared with you. This is not ideas that have come from someone who sits around and does nothing. I mean, anytime I try and get with Rob, he's in a different state. He's somewhere else doing something, working for the kingdom, meeting with people, using the gifts God's given him, even operating in places maybe sometimes he doesn't feel fully qualified. And I want you to receive this tonight. I see some of the comments. Let me just begin to read some of these comments off. Also, I want you to start posting questions as soon as possible. This can be to do with anything Rob has mentioned tonight. He's here. He's giving us his time. Let's utilize this time to the best of our ability. Yeah, see, people are commenting right now. This is good. Let me pull this one. Can you see this, Rob, when I pull up these comments?
Let me see. I think I am.
Okay, yeah. So Rocky said, this is good stuff.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yolamar saying, so true.
Yeah,
Shelby said, so good. People
Thank
saying,
you, guys.
I needed to hear this tonight. This was one of my favorite ones here. Paula said, thank you for this conversation. I've needed a whack in the back of the head. Stop procrastinating. That's me. Just some great things people have been receiving. I want you to go ahead and post questions right now pertaining to excellence, pertaining to fruitfulness. Maybe you're one of the people who say, hey, listen, I struggle, Rob, with getting up and going. Ask questions. Like, you want to utilize this time right now while we're here. I almost wish I'd have asked you to post questions 10 minutes ago, but here we are right now. So go ahead and post your questions as soon as you can. Maybe you even know the answer to your question already. Do it because somebody else will benefit from hearing Rob answer the question. Okay. So even if you know the answer, post it in there already. Do it as fast as you can so we don't have dead air time coming in right now. My wife posted a question. Listen, some of our regulars, Slade, help me out if you can. Shelby, help me out if you can. Post questions in there that would benefit other people, but do it ASAP. Don't procrastinate. Do not do what you've heard not to do tonight. Post the comments, post the questions right now. Rob, let's start off with this stunningly beautiful girl who's in the comments here. You might have heard of her. Her name's Kelsey Morris. Do you see the questions there, or do you want me to read them out to you?
Yeah, read them. Okay.
So again, guys, please just do your best on this. Fire in your questions as soon as you can. A lot of you regular guys, Yolamar, get a question in there. Lynn, get a question in. Shelby, get questions in. It will be good for everybody. So Kelsey started out by asking this: how do you move past feelings of failure and learn to move forward with confidence in your gifts?
That's a great question. I think it just requires a shift of focus. It requires a shift of focus from your emotions. It requires a shift from your doubts. It requires a shift from your insecurities, and to embrace your God-given identity, your God-given purpose, the abilities that he's given you. Acknowledge the feelings, but don't let them lead you, right?
Very good.
And understand, like, the source of your gifts. Obviously, he's your source always. Like, shift your focus. God's power, not your limitation. Rely on his strength. Trust the calling. Like, practice and steward those gifts, right? Like, get reps. How do you get stronger in a gym? I don't just go into the gym and pick up 110 pounds, to do a bicep curl like Jordan Morris. Like, you got to get those reps, right? Like you gotta practice the very thing that is hindering you. And like, it might take a little bit. It's difficult. And again, replacing those negative thoughts with truth. Right. The devil is a liar. Like, we have to renew our mind. We have to combat self-doubt. We all battle it. Like, with God's promises. Like, we got to declare his truth. Can't conform to the pattern of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of our mind. Again, stop comparing. You have an amazing husband. If you need to seek aspiration from God, from him, whoever, but just take bold steps, right? Like, act. Like, my thing is this is one thing that I do, Kelsey. Like, I act despite fear. I say yes, even if I'm scared. No matter what the opportunity, I just wanna give them something to work with. I will be undignified. I will look like a fool. I'll miss it. I'll do whatever he can, but like, I just want to anchor myself in his purpose. I hope
so good. So good. This next question's from one of my closest friends, Rob. He's a pastor in Dothan, Alabama. And his question is, how do you address people who don't share your same drive for excellence? Which, as a pastor, such a good question.
Yeah.
How would you respond to that, Rob? His name's Slade.
His name is Slade.
Slade. Slade. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, man, with anything like that, Slade, especially as a pastor, like I always like criticism, people who just don't share your same belief system, man. Like I start with empathy. I
Mm.
start with empathy. I start with understanding because there's something that needs to be uncovered to discover why they lack that, right? Like, is it due to past disappointments? Is it like, again, lack of vision, like what we talked about? Is it like, and again, like you can acknowledge differences. Like, not everyone's going to share like our value systems, our desires in the same way. And like we can be understanding to like whatever it is they're sharing, but like clarifying the importance is key. Like share your why. Like, why are you striving for excellence? Like, we just talked
Very
about
good.
it for the last hours. I just explained to you why I strive for excellence. Like, I would hope that you could take some nug, you know what I mean? In anything I do and say, man, I say, eat the meat, spit out the bone. You know what I mean? But like, I strive for excellence. Like, this is why it matters to me. I tie it to values like stewardship, like identity in Christ, like because he's excellent, I want to be excellent. I tie it to personal growth. I
So good.
try to tie it to service. I tie it to the scripture. Right? How many scriptures did we just go over? You know what I mean? Where it says, whatever we do, right? Do it wholeheartedly. Like link excellence to purpose, right? Help them to see why pursuing excellence leads to better outcomes. Why does living a life of excellence lead to growth? Why does living a life of excellence lead to impact? Right. And I think if you could tie those shared goals, like it might create a mutual motivation.
That's a really, really good answer. I benefited from that answer. So thank you for asking that question,
Yeah.
Slade. Thanks, Rob, for answering. Shelby said, this is a great question. How do you push past the perfectionist mentality to an excellence mentality instead?
Mm.
Great
Yeah, man,
question.
you got a really incredible
We got a great community.
group, man. Yeah. Again, man, I think it's a shift in mindset, a shift in priorities. Like perfection focuses on flawlessness, right? Which again leads to fear and procrastination. And but again, excellence is about doing your best, right? My
Mm.
question to you, I guess, Shelby,
Shelby, yes.
yeah, Shelby. So, are you doing your best with what you have? Are you really trying to pursue growth? Are you really giving your best effort in everything that currently God is asking you to faithfully steward? Right? Sometimes you need to redefine success.
Mm.
Perfection says, I can't fail, I can't make mistakes. Right? But excellence says, I'll give my best effort, I'll learn from the process. Right? Like I think you heard that in my language. Like I'm not like it's just a mental shift in what we say. Like there's life and death in the power of the tongue. Like what are the things that you are saying about like what God is doing? Like what are you confessing and believing? Right? So my encouragement would be focus on progress over perfection, right? Measure your success by growth and effort and improvement, not by this unrealistic standard or unobtainable goal you may have set for yourself, right? Focus on the bigger picture, right? Perfection, like I think for a lot of people, like what perfection does is get you stuck in the details, and again, it actually prevents you from the pursuit. Whereas like excellence like prioritizes your impact and your purpose. Like ask yourself like what's the ultimate goal of what I'm doing? Like how can I create meaningful value without obsessing over like unnecessary details? Like think like how much of the things that you're like burdening yourself with or over analyzing or that critical thinking, like none of those things are from God first and foremost. But like how do you create meaning value for you without obsessing over those kinds of things? And again, then you find out what that purpose is for your life and you anchor yourself in it, in God's purpose, and go back to that word. Like the word is my greatest anchor.
Yeah.
Anytime I battle these fleshly things, man, I just get in the word. God, it's not my word, but your word. Like your word says, whatever I do, I'm doing it for you. Like I'm doing it wholeheartedly. I'm doing it unto you. I'm not doing this for man. Like like focus your honor on him, not the desired outcome, not the human defined outcome or perfection. Does that help?
Shelby actually wrote back in the comments while you were giving an answer and said, "That's so good, makes me rethink a lot." So she received from that. All right, next one. That's not a question. Souls matter. You're correct, but that's not quite a question. Let's go with this one. Yolamar says, "What would you say to someone who feels called to evangelize, and how has excellence brought you this far in that calling?"
Oh man. Honestly, like I didn't share this, but like a personal story of mine is like when I started for the ministry of Christ for All Nations, I shared my testimony with you guys. I felt like the Lord spoke to me that I was going to be an evangelist from the time that I was 9 years old. And when I got the job at the ministry of Christ for All Nations, I was the executive assistant to evangelist Daniel Kalenda. I wasn't an evangelist. I wasn't preaching at crusades. I wasn't like, really, I didn't have a microphone or a platform. Jordan, you know this better than anybody.
Yeah.
And what this pursuit of excellence has done, my friend, excellence sets you apart. Excellence is noticeable.
It is.
Excellence gets people attention. And so what I discovered is as I just like guys, again, like I said, you teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. Like what I'm telling you, like I've lived this. Like that's why I speak so passionately about it, because like I never took the job at CFAN wanting to use it as a stepping stone. Now I shared with you the words that I knew were in my heart, and in my flesh, I could have very easily told Evangelist Kalenda because of my proximity, because of my relationship. Like, hey, the Lord spoke to me that I was going to lead millions of people to Jesus. The Lord spoke to me that I was going to have a crusade type ministry. The Lord spoke to me that I was going to, see miracle signs and wonders through my hand. But like, no. Like I'm telling you guys, I silenced all the noise. I silenced all the distractions. I said, okay, Lord, this is what I have, and this is what I'm going to give. I'm going to give you the very best that I have as being the executive assistant. And then you know what happened, my friend? Over a few years, we're sitting in a conference room, and I'm starting, because Jordan, you're a man of vision. You're a man that's leading a ministry. Like, when you start to grow, like, you can only do so much. Eventually, like you have to entrust the execution of these things to other people. And so in the ministry like Christ for All Nations, we would have a lot of these amazing visions, like schools of evangelism and then the church and the boot camp and like all these other things. And it's like the vision's great, but like Evangelist Glenn is a CEO of a global ministry, right? He can't do everything. So a lot of those responsibilities of the execution would begin to fall on me. And just like I did my emails, just like I did my administrative tasks, just like I managed his calendar, just like I helped him with the children, just no task was too small for me. I did it at the same standard. And what I did was I began to build trust. I began to build equity. And then the opportunity came one day. We're in a meeting, and as always, I'm sitting next to him, and we're developing the list of evangelists that we need for our crusades. And he says, I need the list of 10. We submit the list of 10. He said, do we have a few more? Because if one of these individuals is not able to make the crusade, then we need a contingency plan. And he jokingly said, I guess if we don't have any, we'll just have to have Rob do it. And I looked at him and I said, I'll do it. Again, because what I say, Kelsey, even when I'm scared, I'm going to say yes. If an opportunity presents itself, Leonard Ravenhill would say, the opportunity of a lifetime must be seized in a lifetime of the opportunity. So he says, oh, well, Rob will just have to do it without hesitation. I'll do it. And he looked at me and he's like, you'll do it? You'll preach at one of the crusades? I said, that's something that's been burning in my heart since I was 9 years old. He's like, I never knew that. I said, well, there's a lot of things in my heart that you don't know about that burn in my heart. And so he said, pray about it, and then come back to me next week and let me know what you want to do. So I didn't need to pray about it. Like, this is something that God spoke to me from the time I was 9 years old. So a week goes by. I didn't even have to ask him. He came and asked me. He said, so Rob, are you going to do it? I said, 100%. He said, don't make Rob a contingency. Put him at the top of the list. And I had the opportunity to stand on the platform of that evangelist. Again, understanding I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. I'm standing on the platform that I myself did not build. And I had the opportunity to preach at a CFAN gospel crusade alongside evangelist Daniel Kalenda. And again, it wasn't nothing that I strive for. It wasn't even anything that I asked for. But like everything that I'm telling you, he sees and he knows the desires of your heart. What does the word say? Delight in me, and I will give you the desires of your heart. And again, That's just, it's Bible, right? I believe the word of God, Jordan. I know you believe the word of God to be true,
Yeah.
and I'm actually crazy enough to apply it to my life and obey it.
Yeah. Guys, you're getting gold here. It this right here, friend, is what you build your life and purpose on. Notice Rob did not go to Daniel a year into working the job and say, by the way, Daniel, there's this thing in my heart and I'm anointed to. No, it was almost like Joseph in the prison. There's this gift. I'll keep using it. I'll keep using it. And when the moment comes, oh, I know somebody. That's how it happens, friend. The
Yeah.
Lord is the one who brings this to pass. Don't ever forget that.
And it took 7 years, Jordan. Like, will you wait? Can you endure?
Yeah.
Can you be patient?
Yeah.
Can you trust him? And there's a quote that I love. Those who endure conquer.
Mm.
And again, that's just the blessing of faithfulness, right? When we speak of faithfulness leading to fruitfulness, like it was that faithfulness that literally unlocked
Yeah. The door.
this opportunity. And I've been
Yeah.
doing it since. And then it's just getting better and better and better. Like it's exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
And like that's what faithfulness will do. Your faithfulness in the little that you do will result in your expectations being exceeded. I believe it. I'm
So
a
good.
beneficiary of it. I'm a byproduct of it.
So good. This next question, Rob, from Calvary, he actually runs the media for our ministry. So all of our crusade videos, the intro that you were watching, Calvary shot that whole thing.
Well done, Calvary.
Yeah, gifted individual, operates with excellence already. But this is a great question. He said, can you describe a project where you went above and beyond to achieve outstanding results? That is an excellent question.
Yeah. No, it's really good.
I was going to read it one more time for you. Can you
Sure.
describe a project where you went above and beyond to achieve outstanding results?
So this is, I don't know if this would necessarily be a project. There's dozens that I could mention, but
I thought the only one was going to come out of your mouth. I have a story I could tell for you.
well, let me see if is it the one with the email with the doctor?
It's the one with all of the sand that got dumped behind the stage on the crusade. And the field was waterlogged and they dumped all of that sand. And didn't you like make it happen or something like that? Daniel's like, hey, I need all of this. Like, you remember telling me that story?
No, I don't.
You don't?
There's been so many guys. I've done this
Anyway,
for a decade.
Tell your story. Tell your story.
No, I mean, it's probably not as like it's, I mean, there's okay. So here's one that you guys can enjoy. I think you'll enjoy this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Calvary. Okay. So, you know, as an evangelist, like especially evangelist Glenda, he loves to use sermon illustrations, right? So there was a church that he was going to be preaching at in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was Palm Sunday. And so I'm fairly new, but again, guys, when I tell you this thing is in me, it's in me. Like you can fillet my heart. This thing's going to be in me to the day I die. And so, you know, he arrives, you know, it's Jacksonville, so it's local, it's in Florida. So, you know, a couple hours drive. So he was going to get in rather late at night. But part of my role is I always go before him. I would always go before him. I bring his luggage, his clothes. I go grocery shopping. I iron all of his clothes. I get everything put in his room, get everything situated. So when he shows up, he does the gig. He leaves. I go. I fold the clothes. Take all the luggage. We've done that all over the world. So in this instance, I do what I do. Right? I go. I'm there the night before Palm Sunday. You know, it's a fairly large church, multiple services, and he texts me at 9 p.m. I need palm fronds to use as an illustration tomorrow morning. So I'm like, palm fronds? Like, where am I going to get palm fronds at 9 o'clock at night in Jacksonville, Florida? For those of you that may not know, Jacksonville, Florida, like the palm trees are massive, right? So my mind starts racing. I'm like, oh my God, like I got to get a ladder. I got to get a saw. I got to like cut down some palm fronds. Like, you know, so then I call up a buddy of mine who like lives in Jacksonville. I'm like, bro, I need like, do you know of like a backyard or somewhere that I can go and like cut down some palm fronds where it's not noticeable? He's like, dude, that's illegal. Like you can't climb a palm tree and cut down palm fronds. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? Where do I go? I'm like, okay, like literally guys, like what I'm telling you, what can I do in the moment? If I'm going to cut down a palm frond, what do I need? I need a saw. I'm going to Lowe's. I'm going to buy a saw. I go to Lowe's. And again, like, just when I say, guys, like, just give him something to work with, and like, he will direct your steps. So often in this life, especially in the life of faith, like, before we take the first step, we want to see the whole staircase, right? We want to see exactly where we're going. We want to know how high, how many stories we got to climb. And it's like, no. All he wants you to do is take the first step, right? So I go like, okay, I need a saw to cut down a palm frond. So, and I was willing to break the law. Like, so I go to Lowe's. I'm in the saw section. And what do I see out of the corner of my eye? The garden center. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we're in Florida. I wonder if they sell palm trees. So I walk in there. They sell palm trees. I bought a palm tree. I dragged it in the back. I cut off all the palm fronds. I threw it in the trash can. I took all the palm fronds off of it in my car. I brought it to the church the next day, and he never used it in his sermon.
Now, how long did you struggle with unforgiveness for after this? After this story?
There's so many props and sermon illustrations that I have done things for all over the world, like Tokyo, Japan. Hey, I'd like to do a live broadcast stream. We have nothing. I have to go out in Tokyo, Japan. Don't even speak English. Like, you can't read. Like, that was probably one of the countries that I traveled to where I had the most culture shock, because it was like, oh, wow. Like, I can't do this on my own. And like, sure as sugar, man, I made it happen. I do not honestly think that there was a task as outlandish and as crazy and as last minute as it was that he asked me to do that I didn't do. Like, no is not an option for me, Jordan.
Right.
Like, it's just not.
Right.
I am going to move heaven and earth to make it happen. And anywhere. And again, I've often found that, like, when you move with intention like that, when you move, like, there would be times where he would ask me to do things, I would just take off running. Right. I didn't even know the solution. I don't even know what I'm going to do. I live a life where I feel as if the eyes of God are upon me, and I want him to know when he speaks, I jump. Wow. And if there's something I can do for the man of God, I jump, I move. You're not going to find Rob Enge dwelling and meditating. Like, I'm going to move. I'm going to go. I'm going to take that first step. I'm going to go up that first rung of the ladder. I'm going to reach out my hand. I'm going to give him something to work with. And by golly, it works.
So good.
It works.
Kelsey commented while you were telling that story. Oh my gosh, the story of the sander stood out to Jordan and myself for years, and you don't remember the story, Rob?
I don't. There's so many. I mean, there's one where, like, man, the traffic was so backed up. It was Reinhard Bonnke's last farewell crusade.
I remember this one.
Yeah, 800. It was like 800,000 people leaving the last night. And again, like, there was a wall, there was a back area that we had where there was a private exit and entrance, and they rebuilt the wall in the last night of the crusade, so we couldn't get out. So we had to go out the main area of the crusade. Now, guys, when I tell you, we had Navy SEALs, we had ex-CIA agents, we had, like, guys in Krav Maga. These guys were the baddest men on the planet, right? Like, all the little gadgets, like pens that would straight up kill you if, you know what I mean, it needed to. And so we're in the car, we leave too late, and it's a mob. And the one path that we have to go out, we can't get out. Cars, people, like, literally 800,000 people leaving the crusade field in the same direction. And we're in the car, and we're not moving. We're sitting there for probably 45 minutes to an hour, and we're not moving. And so they're making calls to these military, like, high-ranking, like, guys that could kill you probably with their hand. And, like, they're like, it's too dangerous. We can't get out of the vehicle. Like, it's 101. When you're outnumbered, you stay in the vehicle and you just weather the storm. You know what I mean? So then Daniel calls me, Rob, I need you to make it happen. And I'm like, well, I'm literally, as you said, in a 3-piece suit. I'm like, I'm in a 3-piece suit. Like, so I'm like, okay, what can I do? Like, now, mind you, one of these guys is sitting in the front seat of our vehicle. The calls have been made to him. I need you to get out of the car, and I need you to make this happen. We can't do it, sir. We can't do it. It's not safe. So he's like, Rob, I need you to make it happen. I jump out of the car. I grab the guys with the guns in the trucks in front of me, and I said, you need to follow me. And I ran in my 3-piece suit, banging on cars, telling people to get out of the way with all my military. We were out of that line in 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So those are just a few of the stories. I'm sorry I don't
You
remember the
can.
sand one, but hopefully Calvary, hopefully those make it up.
Calvary, was that good? Did you benefit from that?
It
All right,
was okay.
Rob, I know I've taken so much of your time. Like
No, dude, this is the
this is
joy.
wild. All right, let me go with a few last ones here. Keep this one real brief, maybe 60 seconds, because in fact, no. Someone asked, please talk again about contentment versus excellence. But I know you touched on that for a long
Yeah, that
while
was good.
anyway. So
Yeah.
let's
Go back maybe and watch the.
yeah,
watch
you could go
the result.
back and find that again. I want to just go with questions here. Someone asked one, decipher this as the Lord leads you, Rob. How do you become a good leader? By being a good follower. Do with that one as the Lord leads you.
I mean, like I said before, like you teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. You know what I mean? So being a good leader starts with being a good follower, right? Great leaders are those who have, mastered humility. Like if you were to ask Evangelist Kalenda, like, what does he look for in like staff or anything like that? It's going to be teachability. It's going to be willingness. It's going to be, urgency, like the things that like we think like matter, you know what I mean? Like I say all the time, like like it's not like what you can put on a resume. Like for me, it's like the posture of your heart. Like these are the qualities that are developed through following well, right? Cultivate humility, like practice obedience and submission. Like I like to say all the time, like there isn't true submission until there's conflict.
Yeah, you've told me that many times.
Yeah. Like, people say, oh, yeah, like I submit to this man of God, I submit to this, and then they get rubbed the wrong way and like they're off to the next thing. Like, no. Like, develop servant leadership. Like, learn how to serve others. I say all the time, like, the key to your God given destiny is service. Like, it's the key. Like, service unlocks it. You know what I mean? Like, when you serve the vision of someone else, like, God brings the vision for your life to pass. Like that's literally what happened with that story that I shared with Evangelist Kalenda and me preaching at the crusade. You know what I mean? Like I've served this man vision up until that point for almost 7 years. And then the vision and the dream in my heart came to pass. And it wasn't anything that I asked for. It wasn't like anything that I desired, and again, like being faithful in the little things and, like develop emotional intelligence, right? Like what happened to that? Like common sense is not too common anymore. Like learn how to work well with people.
Yeah.
Right? Like following teaches you how to navigate relationships, right? Like how can you lead if you haven't been led?
Very
right?
good.
And so like, like you get like embrace feedback and correction and align with vision and like do all these other things, but like at the end of the day, man, we depend on God, right?
Yeah.
And like your alignments determine your assignments. Like who are you aligning yourself with right now? Who are you learning from? My coach taught me this, that every man needs 3 men in his life: a Paul, a Timothy, and a Barnabas. He needs a Paul who's just like a mentor, who's sowing into him, pouring into his life, and an elder, just beyond, healthy man. Like I'm a fruit guy. Like if you guys can't tell by now, like if you don't have the fruit in your life, I'm not listening to you. Like, I don't have no respect for people who like can talk with their mouth, but they don't lead it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just I don't respect people like that. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your rank is. Like, man, like the way I see Jordan Morris, like how he's just mastered his husbandry, how he's mastered being a father. Like those things matter to me the most. Cause like, if you can master the things, well, like I believe a man's greatest resume is his wife and kids. Like bump, like,
wow.
Like how you can pontificate over the scriptures and like how well you can read the God and you're deep theological, like if you don't have fruit in your life, that like is what is truly to be inspired. Like those are the things that like matter to me. Because again, what do you got to do to get that stuff? You have to be faithful. You got to be faithful with those little things. You got to give it time. You got to give it attention. Like you got to give it care. You got to give it concern. Like you can't rush those things. You can't fake those things. And I believe one of the greatest atrocities that we see in the body of Christ is men and women of God who prioritize ministry over family. They're not even going to go down that rabbit trail because I know, Jordan, you know how we feel about this. And so I'm like a Pringle. Once I pop, I can't stop. I've already gone off the question. So like, good question, but onward.
Yeah, we're probably gonna wrap it there. Let me ask. There were a few more in there, but If you guys go back and watch the live stream, I think you'll find that some of those things were already addressed. Let me ask one last one for myself, Rob. And you can wrap this in 30 seconds, I'm sure.
Jordan, I don't know how to wrap anything in 30 seconds, bro. Come on.
I know, but
I'll try.
I have great faith in my heart. It doesn't matter if you go, but people aren't getting off. I mean, like we peaked at 30 something, and we've still got like 24
and
people
I have
on here
a
right
face
now.
for radio, so
No.
gotta be God.
How important is it, Rob, in terms of maintaining excellence, who your close friends are?
Yeah. I mean, bro, like I said, it's everything. Your alignments determine your assignments. You know what I mean? Like the voices in your life matter. The people in your life matter. You know, like what my heart for this call was like, I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm trying to call you up.
Mm,
Right. And that's why I say, you know, seasons of life matter. Like, you know, we're married and we're fathers. So like a guy who's single and not married, like, you know, it's a different season. So like seasons matter. But as you grow in maturity, as you grow in your walk with God, as you the things that we talk about, as you know what your vision is and you know what your purpose is, and you know, my wife and I at the beginning of this year, we said we're not gonna align with anything that's not adding value to where we know where we're going. We're
very
not going
good.
to add friendships. We're not like, and that's not that we don't love people or we don't talk to people, or we don't help people. Or like, no, we do all those things, but like, it's vital to your health. It's vital, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We all know people that want to just leech and suck the life out of you. And it's like, no, you have to establish clear boundaries. You got to know where you're going and who's going to help you get there. You know, there was a season that I just came out of where, man, I felt like my ceiling had become my floor. And
Yeah.
so what did I do? I leveled up, right? I surrounded myself with other men where those, like, you know, I say, oh man, like Rob, you're this, Rob, you're the excellence. Oh, you're this, like, and you know, all these other things. Like, no. But like, I need to be sharpened. What's the Bible say? Iron sharpens iron, right? So like, I need to. So what I do? What did I shift? What we're talking about? My circles. I have a family of choice that calls me out, that calls me up, that loves me, but doesn't take excuses, and it's forced me to not forced because it's a choice, obviously, but like it has helped me in profound ways. Jordan, you're one of those men in my life. It has helped me in profound ways and challenged me. We're challenging each other right now. We challenge each other in different ways. It's beautiful. We need that. And that's why I said you need a Paul, you need a Timothy, you need men that you have accountability with, and it forces you to step into growth and development and excellence.
So
if you want
good.
to be excellent, surround yourself with excellence. Like if you want to be a millionaire, what do? You learn what millionaires do. You act how millionaires act. You want to be a professional ball player. Like my 14-year-old wants to play professional ball. So what do we got to do? We got to get around professionals that have played at that level, that know what it takes, and then you trust the process, right? If you want to be excellent, you got to surround yourself with excellent people. What are you wanting? Surround yourself with that thing, learn what they did to get there, and just trust the process. And know that those desires that are in your heart, they're God-given, right? Like, you know, it's not random that like, oh yeah, like when I was a little girl, like I want to do it. Like my wife, when she was a little girl, wanted to be an event planner. And like all these years, like now she just launched her own event planning business, right? So like, don't despise your small beginnings, right? Again, don't compare. Like, what do you have right now in this moment? Give them that and do it with excellence.
So good. And this is why I get around Rob, just selfishly for myself. I leave a better human being. And so, listen, guys,
I assure you, I get far more from you than you get from me.
I'm grateful for you. I really am. I know just by the comments that so many of you have been blessed tonight. And so, listen, we are not a stingy community. We're a community that blesses. Amen. In the same way we did with Pastor Jim, we're going to bless Rob for his time. We're going to sow a financial seed tonight. And so my wife put a link there in the chat. I'll highlight that for you. But I want you guys to go ahead. You can go to allforjesus.net/give. Let me make this very easy for you guys as well. I'll put the ministry cash app in there too. I'm not going to bring a single person on this live stream and not bless them. Now, I know most ministries will say, well, you don't give honorariums for live streams. Maybe you don't. We do. Because we're not going to be some spiritual bums who takes people's gifts for granted, okay? So
All for Jesus has standards.
All for Jesus has standard. And I want people to know that when they come and minister for All for Jesus, we value it and we do. Listen, please, everyone, look at my eyes right now on the screen and listen. We don't honor with words, we honor with action.
Mm.
It is one of the most awful things when you see a minister who's been in the ministry for years and they drag him up on a stage and say, we just want to honor him. No. Do something. Do something to show we value what you carry. And that's what we're going to do here tonight, okay? So as a ministry, everything that comes in, we are going to add to that as well. And let me put the ministry cash app in here too. I wonder if I can do it from right here. Let's try. All right. There you go as well. That is the ministry cash app. Everything that comes in tonight from this, we are going to give to Rob, and we're going to add to it as well, okay? So I want you to take a moment, click on that link. And again, you say, well, I was really blessed tonight, but I'm not sure to sow a seed. Why not? Generosity is the nature of the Lord. So carry that nature. Sow a seed tonight. Bless an individual who has given nearly now 2 hours of his time away from his family to pour into you. It is a good thing to do. It is a good habit to have. I never go and meet with a man of God or woman of God without taking a seed. Never. There are spiritual mentors in my life that I meet with on a frequent basis. It gets expensive, but it's not an expense. It's a seed. Listen to me tonight. You're not making a donation. Donations don't multiply. Seeds do. Sow a seed tonight. And is my wife texting me something I should be aware of here? All right, perfect. People are using Cash App already. Thank you for your generosity. The Lord sees it, and I appreciate it too as well, okay? Rob didn't ask for this, but this is the right thing to do. You take a man of God, you honor the man of God. So go ahead and sow a seed. While you're on here, let me remind you, tomorrow morning, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, I'll be back live with you. I'm going to bring you a teaching that I think is going to bless you. Slade said, this was excellent. Thanks, Rob. Kelsey said, tonight was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, Rob. We appreciate you. Again, guys, I'm going to forward every encouraging word because ministers need encouragement. This is not about blowing somebody up. Honestly, you guys know how much I preach a year. You would be amazed. You can go through 20 churches. And this is not about being puffed up. Everyone needs to know, hey, this encouragement, this blessed me. And so post in the chat tonight if this bless you. I'll pass these messages on. But go ahead and do that tonight. Sow a seed. If this ministered to you, sow a seed. It's the right thing to do. None of this is going to alter Jesus. Not a penny. Every penny that comes in is going to go to Rob to bless him, to bless his family. And that's what we're doing this for tonight, okay? But listen, I love you guys. I'm so grateful for you. Rob, you can hang out on here. I'll talk with you after.
Sure thing.
But listen, I love you guys. So grateful for you. And remember, tomorrow morning, Rocky said, good word, Rob. Very encouraging. Tomorrow morning, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, Mornings with Jesus. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I'll see you on there tomorrow, okay? But listen, I love you guys. God bless you. And we'll see you soon here, okay?